Let me read something to you. Recently, I've been thinking about the difference between the resume virtues and the eulogy virtues. The resume virtues are the ones you list on your resume, the skills that you bring to the job market and that contribute to external success. The eulogy virtues are deeper. They're the virtues that get talked about at your funeral, the ones that exist at the core of your being, whether you are kind, brave, honest, or faithful, what kind of relationships you formed. Most of us would say that the eulogy values are more important than the resume values, but this author says, I confess that for long stretches of my life, I've spent more time thinking about the latter than the former. Our education system is certainly oriented around the resume virtues more than the eulogy ones. Public conversation is too. The self-help tips in magazines, the nonfiction booksellers. Most of us have clearer strategies for how to achieve career success than we do for how to develop a profound character. These are the words of David Brooks in his book, now a number of years old, that I've read and thumbed through many times, called The Road to Character. What Brooks does that's effective and interesting and relevant at any point in our lives is he gets us on a journey of thinking about two aspects of ourselves that are part of every human being at any point in our lives, even though they alter, they change in terms of their priority for us at different stages of life. Now, what David Brooks does is he references the Rav Joseph Soloveitchik. Soloveitchik was a famed scholar. Now, why do I mention that? Because what Soloveitchik does in his book, in his analysis of the book of Genesis, especially chapters 1 and 2, is to say, you know what, look at that character Adam. Let's call one of them Adam version 1 and the other Adam version 2. Two aspects of one human being, two aspects of you and of me. Adam, by the way, not being male inherently. Adam is Adam, a human, a person, a Ben or Bat in this case, Adam. But in this case, he's not called Ben Adam. It's just an Adam, a person. So think about this for a moment. Adam 1, according to Soloveitchik, and expanded in the book and the writing of David Brooks, is the part of us that is pursuing the virtues of our resume. It's building the garden. It's growing the garden. It's building things. It's pursuing the ambitions. Adam 2 isn't ambitious in the same way. Adam 2 is content to see the garden, to notice the garden, to walk in the garden, to cultivate the garden, and even to protect the garden. Now, you and I both have both of those virtues, those qualities within us. The protective, nurturing, caring, and the part that says, how can I change it? What is it about this world that will let me achieve my goals? Now, why do I mention all this? Because resume virtues are for a point in life, a long period of life for many of us, which is building a future, building a bank account balance, building a reputation for ourselves. And maybe, like David Brooks, we haven't attended enough, as he writes, to the second part, which is our virtues of character, essentially. The part of us that's thinking in terms of, even if we don't have the thought, but we know it has that implication, what is and will be said about me at the end of the day? Now, I have heard many a eulogy, and some of them are sweet and funny, because all of us are at times sweet and often funny. Many are told amidst streams of tears, and some aren't, because people didn't have those rich relationships that draw on tears. I remember sitting opposite a couple, a brother and a sister in their 30s, 40s, and I said, tell me about Dad, probably both in their 40s. And they looked at each other in silence and looked back at me in silence, and then one of them said, well, he loved the Dodgers, and the other said, he loved his dog as well. And then we spent the next hour or so talking about this complex figure that was their dad, who did very well in his business, was highly educated, and to a great degree successful. But the people who needed him to be successful sat there, not in awe, not in gratitude, but in some disbelief and great loss and sadness. Now, we have a decision to make, you and I. We get to choose ultimately, not to the word, but to the character, virtue, what will be said about us. We actually have that power. You might say, well, we can't control what other people say. I disagree. If you live a life that demands that people praise you, you'll be praised. If you live a life, and living a life isn't just some grand concept, it's moment to moment, day to day, the stuff we do on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and any other time. If you live a life that's built on certain values and not others, those will show up when people describe you and remember you. Now, you might say, well, what do I care what's said about me when I'm no longer here? Well, consider that if you were there, and you might be there, depending on your spiritual belief of the afterlife, you might care very, very deeply. You might be like the person in the hospital near death's door, or believing so, who suddenly has an urgency to living and a wish that they could do things differently, say different things, and change the way that they matter in this world and are perceived to have mattered in this world. So I offer you this because sometimes summer is very busy. For some reason, for me, this summer is incredibly busy. Sometimes summer is a time to reflect and step back on our parenting, on our spousing, how we are with another human being in a relationship, how we are with people whom we are employed by and whom we employ, how we are with the stranger at the market, how we are on email, on text, and on Instagram and Facebook, how we are in a time of great turmoil, transition in our country, a time when our worst values could be shown, or perhaps even our best values. So that's a thought for summer. Separate from all that, since we are approaching the second Friday in July and what will be probably warm but then cooling, because it has been recently, even in these hot days, Shabbat Under the Stars, usually by the time we start the service, temperatures dropping pretty considerably and rapidly. I want to invite you to come to the service in the park. 5:30, you can come earlier if you'd like, you can come. And we'll have picnics, of course, and we'll have a service that starts at 7 and will end at 8, so people can get out of the park safely. One thing that I noticed, and we noticed at our last service in the park in June, that's in Oak Canyon Community Park, is that there were people who had disabilities that were obvious and some that aren't obvious, meaning balance challenges, who had to climb up to higher levels of the amphitheater seating. What I'd like to do this time is ask you to clear and reserve the ground level in front of us who are leading the service for people who need that because they can't safely get higher or to another place. Please, please consider that. If you have a concern about falling, any age, any reason why, please don't attempt to go to a higher level or walk on the uneven ground. Just put your chair on the grass, as many people do, even if you're on the side of the service. I don't think there's really a bad seat. In addition, there's an upper parking lot and a lower parking lot, the one that you see with the water park for the kids. The upper parking lot, this time, we are going to put more stakes in the ground that say disabled parking. Please use those should you need them. Parking for people with disabilities. Obviously, there's a limit to the number that we can put out and offer, but we hope that if you come early to reserve those, to get there, to park your car there, it'll assist you, keep you safe and comfortable. Let's look out for each other. Let's be those people who are living the best of our resume values at certain points in life when it's appropriate, but always our eulogy values.